Enos will return next Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock, 7 Central and Mountain Time on most of these stations.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
That's, me kind of doing a very light take on the version of Batman I was raised by, which is sort of post Neil Adams take, which he was doing the year I was born. Neil Adams was redefining the character kind of in the cracks and corners of DC when he was first a cover artist on a lot of the Batman books in the late 60s, and then once they gave him sort of the run of the place, his look he kind of exaggerated even more with the lighting and the grandeur, the way he would exaggerate the figure form, the length of the ears, the length of the cape. A lot of it was just sort of aesthetics. He wasn't really changing the costume per se. I tried to illustrate what Adams did with a sense of maybe somewhat photo exacting kind of take on it, while also kind of avoiding some of the comic book tropes of the glowing white eyes, which I was always having a problem with as a kid, thinking about like how the mask is pretty much on his face like it's makeup. Like it's as close to the skin as you can get the way it was drawn by everybody, Adams included. And if that's the case, there's no room to hide the eyelashes for the human being wearing this mask, so basically just his natural eyes showing, but you can hide that in shadow.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Always happy to welcome Franco back. This isn't our Oh Yeah podcast, or even when Franco and I just get together and do Franco Clanko every now and then. Word Balloon viewers and listeners know that Franco comes on when he's got a new graphic novel to talk about. Welcome, my man.
It's true. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I feel like I need to be on my best behavior. This is the serious talk show.
Nah. It's just a little slight. We have something to talk about beyond the BS that we normally talk about. And this is great, man, because you've been telling me about this book for a long time now. And it's so great to see Teen Titans Go to the Library finally come out. It came out this week. And, it's you, it's Artie, Art Baltazar, and it's Agnes Grabowski, one of our favorites. And hey, man, it turned out great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was excited for this. I'm excited for all my projects, but this one and the Dead Man book that came out last year before, were pitched at the same time. So they staggered the releases and mainly because this one was the first one that I've done artwork on in a long time, because I haven't really done much artwork in any of the DC projects that I've done. I've done a couple of pages here or there, but this one was the first one where it was me, mostly me.
That's cool. Yeah, you were telling me, do you want to tell people the breakdown of Artie and Agnes's work as well?
Well, yeah. So the whole premise of the book is that that the Titans, because it's mostly based on the show, the Teen Titans Go cartoon, which I'm a big fan of. I like, it's fun. And I pitched this idea about them going to the library, but it mostly was kind of selfish because we got to do some stuff that the part that Artie draws. I don't want to give it away, but I will, because it's my book and I can. So it's the whole premise is that they go to the library and Raven casts a spell in the library, and it kind of goes haywire, and everybody winds up in a different book. Not the kind of book that you might expect, but they wind up in different books, and then they each have to get through those books. So, for example, Robin winds up in a book of Shakespeare's works, so all of that artwork is all, crosshatchy and ink washes and stuff like that. Um, and Starfire gets stuck in a art history book, so her art style changes every couple of pages in a painterly style, and then they all have to get together and because all the books are touching on the floor of the library, and they all have to work through their books, and they all find out that it's actually adjacent to another book or touching another book, and then it's a children's book, and then it's a basically Artie doing the Tiny Titans version of the Titans that we did so many years ago now. So it's a little bit of everything. It's checking all my boxes on my ADHD um, art scorecard, basically.
Am I right in that maybe an inspiration for this was those old 30s Disney and Warner Brother cartoons, like not your classic Looney Tunes, but like they would do like, oh, here's the library, and they'd open up a book and
Right.
they'd do like a little silly parody, or they'd have them singing a song or whatever.
Probably subconsciously, because I'm remembering very vividly the cartoons that you're talking about, where they would go from shelf to shelf, or yeah, now that you're mentioning it, I remember those quite vividly. So maybe subconsciously, but the reason it came about was I thought it would be cool to have them all in a different style. So they didn't necessarily have to be in the Teen Titans Go style, although they do appear in the book, because that's what Agnes is so good at, is she's drawing the Teen Titans Go. She's drawn them and the DC superhero girls, over and over again. So she's amazing at it. So I specifically asked for her to be on the project as well. But I was pitching the story. They love the story, and then I'm like, okay, now this is what I want for this section of the book, and this is what I want. And they're like, well, kind of, can you describe it or can you show us? So I would do an art piece and say, I kind of want it like this. I want Robin to look like this. I want Starfire to look like this. And they're like, well, who do you have in mind? I said, I don't know. We have to look for some artists or find some artists. And then my editor was Michelle Wells at the time before she left. She's like, well, why don't you do it? And I'm like, well, I guess I can. She's like, you're handing in these pieces. It's basically like, have you heard the Phil Collins story about Genesis? When they were, auditioning singers, and Phil Collins is in the room, and he's like, no, you got to sing it like this. And the other guys are like, well, why don't you do it? So basically, that's what happened. And I'm like, well, if you give me some time, and then COVID hit, and I had time, so that's when I did all the artwork for the book.
That's awesome, man. Here, I'm going to show the other books that DC is promoting of yours. Here we go. Let's see. Boom. So there you got Superman of Smallville. You got Animaniacs, or Archimaniacs, excuse me. And of course, Dead Man Tell the Spooky Tales. There it is. So those three books are right there on the back cover to remind people of stuff. And I don't know, Franco, do you want me to show a little bit of the art? Or
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming like this is. Hold on, it's going to take a second to pop in. There we go. So is this Agnes doing the Titans Go kind of?
Yep. That's Agnes doing the Teen Titans Go stuff. And it was all, I broke down the whole thing because I write scripts in storyboard style. So, that's basically my layouts and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then, as you said, Robin kind of finds himself in this Shakespeare collection, and that's Yorick.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little freaked out by the talking skull, but yeah. So
I like that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I like that you gave him the mullet for this part of the book.
Alas, yeah. He had that, you got to have that greasy Shakespearean hair look, I guess.
Sure. 100%, man. No, that's hilarious. And then, to me, the most inventive part, can I spoil?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. It's this part here where
Cyborg, yeah.
Yeah, Cyborg. I was going to call him Cyclops. This is where my brain is. But Cyclops finds himself, or rather Cyborg finds himself on a blueprint, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Perfect for the character. I love this idea, honestly, when you told me this, I'm like literally, this is what made the book for me. Is pages like this.
Yeah, and it's geared for younger. And that page right there kind of shows all the art styles right there. So it's Raven gets stuck in an Edgar Allan Poe Raven poem book,
Right,
and
right.
Beast Boy is in a paper cutout book, and Robin is in the Shakespeare book. Cyborg is in the blueprint book, and Starfire is in the art history book. So she looks like an acrylic painting.
Yes.
So yeah, so so it was, it was really, kind of just me going, oh, I like all these different art styles. I was our art teacher for so many years too, and delving into all these different art styles and different student styles and history and all that other stuff. So all of it just kind of melded into the one book, which was it was really a lot of fun, and I kind of can't believe they let me do it, in a sense, especially when they told me that the characters in your sections of the book, they don't have to look anything like the Teen Titans Go characters because you're putting them in different books so they can be in different styles. And I'm like, oh, then I definitely want to draw this. So it was kind of a dream come true.
Absolutely, man. No, I think this is like a great book for kids in terms of making them aware of the books that they fall into
Hmm.
and stuff. So yeah, what's Shakespeare? What's Edgar
Right.
Allan Poe? What's all these things. I think that's great, and yeah, the fact that you could experiment with the looks and everything.
Yeah.
No, I think I really like I said. As soon as you told me about this book, I'm like, this one's going to be great. Not that the others aren't,
Thank
but
you.
it's like the gimmick. Absolutely, man. That's cool.
Thanks, D.
So
Brad. That's awesome. Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
They're enjoying it. Chem Dog with an LS, of course, for
Right.
Yorick.
Of course.
He knew him well. Have I told you one of the big Chicago improv teachers that taught everybody from Mike Myers to Stephen Colbert to Vince Vaughn and John Favreau was this great guy named Del Close. And Del is one of the teachers in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And he's a guy in what way? And he's
Oh, right.
he's the crooked mob accountant in the Untouchables
Hmm.
for Al Capone and stuff. So that's the guy I'm talking about. Well, he died. He was like in his early 60s. He knew he was going to die. He wanted them to save his skull and donate it to the Goodman Theater so that whenever they need a prop for a skull, they use his skull, and he's in the playbill in the actors' descriptions because
That's
he's
so weird and fun and awesome. The
yeah,
forethought to have that, like, yeah, I'm gonna donate my skull, and you have to give me, like,
stage
billing.
credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, we're fun people in Chicago. So yeah, man, the theater community is like, that's fantastic. We're doing it.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
he was amazing. He taught Bill Murray. Yeah, he really, and also, I forgot it. A comic book credit. He and John Ostrander, if you remember in the '80s, one of the best DC pre-Vertigo titles was Wasteland, and it was a horror anthology.
Yeah.
And Del co-wrote the series with John,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were all, yeah, because John was a big Chicago theater guy back in the day. So yeah, it was really, it's an amazing series, and yeah, Del had some incredible adventures, but this is not about Del. This is about you and your book.
Oh, that's
Stanley had a
awesome.
question and asked, was it challenging writing very comedically?
No. I mean, that's how we got our start, basically, and Art and I have done it for many years, and we kind of co-wrote the book together, and it just kind of falls into place when we get together. It's like a Vulcan mind meld. We become one, so to speak, in terms of humor and brain. People always ask us, well, who wrote that line or who wrote this line? And honestly, I wouldn't be able to pick out which lines I wrote or which lines he wrote, just because it just flows so well. We just talk and laugh, and I write notes as fast as I can, and then send it to him, and then he usually does outlines and stuff like that. This time it was the reverse, where Um, I was doing most of the artwork and stuff like that. So that was the challenging part, is being on the reverse end of that, instead of feeding everything to art and having him do the artwork, solely for the book or mostly for the book. And this time it flowed the other way around.
How about working with Agnes? I know that she has done, oh yeah, comics where she's played with your characters before, and you guys have collaborated. But yeah, I've never asked you about collaborating with Agnes.
She's awesome. We worked on a book called Peach and the Island Monsters for Action Lab a few years ago, and she is just great to work with. I have no qualms about no nitpicky stuff. She's just amazing to work with, really.
Well, and she obviously, figured out right away how to draw on model the Teen Titans Go thing. Does she do other Teen Titans Go comics?
Yeah, she's done a bunch of other ones, and I don't know if she's really doing them much anymore. I think she is. I wouldn't be able to say definitively, but when I asked if she would, um, want to do this project, she, without even hearing about it, she's like, "You're on it? Yes, I'll do it." So
That's great.
that made me feel really good. But I said, "You probably might want to read the script, just in case." Even though I'm on it, and you automatically said yes. But very grateful for that. And she did one of the stories in the Dead Man Tells the Spooky Tales as well. So yeah, we've worked together on and off for years, and we see each other at conventions all the time, and we keep in touch on social media as well.
That's
Conventions.
cool. Yeah, yeah. Man, it's been a while since I've seen Agnes at a show,
Yeah.
because I don't, other than Terrificon, I haven't been going to any East Coast shows. So
Well,
is she?
she's a world traveler. She's in Tokyo. She's been in a whole bunch of places. All over. She's much braver than I am. I try not to leave the house, but she goes all over the world. Good
That's
for her.
great. That's great, man. Um, have you talked to? I noticed another good friend of ours, man, had a rough patch in December with her health, and that's our buddy Katie Cook. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've talked to her directly. I've certainly left her messages, wishing her good on Facebook, but I haven't talked to her. Have you talked to her?
The last time I talked to her was in Baltimore last year. We went out to dinner,
Oh,
and that was good catching up with her. I see her at conventions here and there, and
yeah,
I see her on social media. But she's another amazing writer and artist that I would work with at the drop of a hat anytime. Um, Actually, a couple of years back, we were working together on a book that never saw the light of day. So we were doing this project for Archie Comics. We were going to be doing Sabrina, and then we were supposed to be doing Josie and the Pussycats, and everything got caught up in a tsunami and fell through a sinkhole and never saw the light of day. So, but it was a fun experience working with her and Andy Price on Sabrina, which was a lot of fun.
that's cool. That's cool. And now all right, mentioning Katie made me think of another question that I don't think I've ever discussed with you. Um, the stuff that's happening with um, Jesus, and again, now I'm blanking on names of things, webtoons and tapas and things. Have you ever considered that online format? Because it would seem to me that what you do in general, but also even specifically Tiny Titans, would work in that format. Again, it seems to me that that's the case. But have you considered that at all?
I've considered everything at one time. It's just having the time to do it or pursuing it has never been uh, um, something that's worked well with my schedule up until, as you know, but I don't know about the listeners, but up until um, June, July, I was a high school art teacher, and my schedule was really dictated by school schedule. So again, the work for the Teen Titans Go book, they gave me a lot of lead time, and then it happened to coincide with COVID, so that worked in my favor because I was home. But the reason I haven't done a lot of artwork in books is because of my school schedule. And writing was just easier. I could take it with me. I can, be thinking about it all the time. I could jot notes down and stuff like that. So writing was always just an easier thing for me to do. Artwork, not that it was more difficult, but it was a lot more time consuming in a specific place. Like I have to sit at my desk or I have to sit with my iPad and draw and stuff like that. So it never really kind of afforded me the time. Seeing what Katie did with her book, Nothing Special, I read the first couple of chapters, but then over time you just lose track of things. That a testament to that could be the stack of comic books on my night table that I haven't read yet. But I'm definitely picking up the book because I think it comes out pretty soon because they're publishing it. And we talked about the webtoon stuff a while ago, but they approached her about that because I was like, well, how did that come about? Did you do that? And she goes, well, they approached her. So I'm like, well, that's a model. Have them come to you. But I've never really. I know that some people are doing stuff on webtoons and stuff like that. That's nothing that I've ever really pursued. I have a literary agent now, which I didn't have for many years. So the last couple of years, I have a literary agent where I'm working with her on some stuff. We have some things happening, hopefully things that I'll be able to reveal soon. So it's just a matter of time and everything.
When you were at the school, I've never asked you this. Did they in the high school world? You were an art teacher. Did they appreciate the fact that you obviously were a paid artist that was cranking out comics, graphic novels, first readers, things like that?
Um, yeah, to a degree. The students would find out, and the first question I would inevitably get is, "Why are you here? Why are you working here?" Um, and I'm like, well, freelance art isn't what you think it is sometimes, and yes, you can make a career out of it, but I chose this path, and you know, I don't know, it's weird because my school and comics career were kind of like parallel all the time. Like when I was first getting started in comics, it was an independent comic. It was selling okay, but nothing to be able to retire on. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to have to get a real job because we were going to be getting a house and I was going to be having a kid and all of those things kind of weigh on you sometimes. We're like, oh, I got to feed this thing, you know, if this baby is going to grow into any kind of, child or adult, I have to keep feeding it. So I decided, I better go back to get my master's degree in order, which I did, and went to school. And getting the job at school and comics just started to take off at the same time. Like I got my job, comics started to take off, and people would always say, well, eventually you're going to have to quit one or the other. And I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely am going to have to decide that soon. And then year after year, I'd have the same question. And then 24 years later, I never did. Um, until it got to the point last year where I'm like, you know what? I think it's time to quit one. And uh, teaching was it, and I took early retirement, and decided let me try this comics thing full time and see if it works out, and we'll see. So kids would find out about it and then ask me about it, and then would be in kind of disbelief. Then parents would find out about it. It's nothing that I really kind of touted. Administration would find out about it, and they would turn a blind eye occasionally if I had to, like, go to a convention or whatever where I was a guest or I was asked to be there or something like that. But yeah, I don't know if it hurt me or helped me in any way, but it was what it was.
Did they ever ask you to do special presentations to the students regarding your books?
Yeah, and I would say no because
Really?
yeah, I wasn't getting paid for that. I was on contract to be a teacher.
Okay.
If you want
Sure.
me to, if you want me to do that other stuff, I get paid for that stuff, and
I don't blame you, man.
yeah,
All right.
I mean,
And you are within your class giving back to the students in that capacity. So it's not like
absolutely.
you're denying any students that would be interested in art. They can take your class and learn directly, as opposed to special after school presentation kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'd be asked to do some things like teachers would find out that I would be, an artist, and they're like, "Oh, my niece or nephew really likes Spider-Man, and would you be able to draw a Spider-Man?" thing, and I'd be like, sure, these are my rates, and they're like, wait, you're charging this much to? I'm like, well, that's my rate, and and I'm not doing it during school time. I have to go home at night when when you're sitting there watching, The Bachelor or something like that. I'm going to be doing this. So, you know,
Actually,
um, so yeah, it would. Some people would get annoyed. Some people would understand. But I've learned early on that you really kind of need to stick to your guns about if you're going to do something, you shouldn't do it for free.
yeah,
You know?
you're a professional.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. No, I get it. God, I almost thought you were going to start telling me like, hey, I need a poster for this portion of my history class. Can you whip that up for me and stuff like that?
I got a lot of those too.
I'm sure you did.
I got a lot of those, and you know, you would hear talk about, Franco's kind of a jerk. I asked him to do this history thing for me, and he wouldn't do it. I'm like, well, again, when you're home watching, Storage Wars, I'm going to be working on your history project, and that's, I need to get paid for stuff like that.
Sure. Stanley wants to know what you like about creating all ages comics.
I like creating comics, just in general. I like creating horror comics. I like creating all ages comics. I like creating superhero comics. I think this comic book, the Teen Titans Go book, again, really kind of speaks to my all over kind of, I like this art style, I like this art style, I like this art style. I think creating kids comics is also one of those things. I like creating kids comics. I like creating horror comics. I like superhero comics. I think it's awesome that at some point a kid is going to pick up one of my books for the first time to read, and that's an awesome thing. I can't tell you over the years how many people have told me they learned to read with Tiny Titans or Patrick the Wolf Boy or Oh Yeah Comics, and it never gets old.
I can appreciate that. That's fantastic. I was wondering with this specific book, God, we're still, we're going to wait. It cracks me up that literally almost every day there's a new article about James Gunn's plans for Superman Legacy or some of the other properties that he's already discussed.
He has not called me, by the way, just for the record.
Well, honestly, I was wondering, truly, maybe not him specifically, but maybe the animation department. I think this book would make a fantastic direct-to-video movie. Yeah. I really do. Again,
they've done a bunch of Teen Titans Go type movies, and one of them was Teen Titans Go Meet the Teen Titans, and the Tiny Titans were in that, and we were never told. It's like
that sucks. But I was wondering if where to go with this book, or maybe they're already doing it. I hope if they were to do something with that, I certainly would hope that they would have you guys involved in some capacity, because again, I just think what the three of you did with this book is great. And I based on what little I know about animation, yeah, I could totally see this thing being a really fun Teen Titans Go movie.
If anybody's out there listening, call me. But yeah, I mean, we did work in animation. We did the Super Pets bumpers, or
yes, DC Nation,
the DC Nation stuff.
For DC Nation, yeah, absolutely. I even managed to have a cameo in one of them.
That's right.
me and Jimmy the Muscle, and our boat capsizes, and Crypto saves us.
Yeah. So yeah, those were fun to do, but that was again through the comics connection, because that was Mike Carlin, who's editor at DC for the longest time, and then moved over to the animation side of things, and talked to us once. Have you guys ever done animation? We're like, no, but we'd like to, and that's how that all came about. So yeah, I'm always into that, but comics is always my first love. That's kind of where I'd like to be.
Well, and again, I'm glad that your hand is still in the DC universe, but you're doing your own, create your own stuff as well. Are you a couple of years ago during the New 52? They had you and Artie plotting and writing the Green Team.
Yeah,
and you got to, and it was great because it was more of a traditional DC universe book. Are you still pitching those at all as far as to DC, or are you staying in the kids area because of your success with Tiny Titans and now these books, these recent books?
Yeah, I think that's kind of like how it kind of panned out is more over to the DC Kids side of things. But I don't really know much of anybody over at DC anymore. The one editor I do know, which is Christy Quinn, and she's the editor on this book. Amazing editor and person. Jim Chadwick, who just retired, was the other person that I know, and
Great guy.
yeah, awesome guy, and but there's not really a lot of other people left over there that I know, and I've just been so worked up with school the last couple of years, because again, one of the cool things about COVID, not that there was much of anything that was cool about COVID, was that I was able to be home and I really put a lot of effort into this book and the Dead Man book because they were pitched at the same time. I was working on them at the same time, and at that time was when I had just been signed with my agent, so I was prepping a bunch of projects to go with her, and all of that was just happening at the same time as the end of school. So now that these projects are out and my agent has some stuff, I'm really starting to work on other things. And I haven't really had any conversation with DC or anybody else in terms of projects uh, until just recently. There's a project that Artie and I were signed on to work on together that hasn't been announced yet. So that's fun. It's a fun project, and I have a couple other things in the works that are not really anything DC related.
How about YA? A couple years older than where you normally will write and draw things. I mean, obviously I know that's the hot demographic right now, and a lot of comic book people are, kind of dipping their toe in the YA world. Is that something you'd want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple of pitches and stuff like that are with my agent that she's sending out into the world and stuff like that. And I'm doing a couple of prepping a couple of Kickstarter projects that are not so much in the kids realm of things, but skew older into YA and things like that I'm really excited about. One of the next projects that I'm looking to do that I could talk about because it's my own project is a game that I developed with a friend of mine. So he's very into it's called LXT. It's kind of like a spin on a wrestling like WWE or AEW or something like that. But it's a card game, and that you play with dice and you kind of match up the players against each other and stuff like that. And I was talking to him about this project because he's been working with these other guys doing these projects, and he's like, well, they're doing this and they're doing that, and I'm like, this is a lot of work, how much are these guys paying you? And he goes, oh no, I do it for free because I love it. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you do your own? And he goes, well, I don't really, you got to get artists and stuff like that, and I don't know any artists. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, right here, I'm one. So we got together and we developed this thing I did all the artwork, and we kind of came up with the characters and developed it all. So I'm looking to probably launch that by the end of February or March of this year as a Kickstarter. So there's a game component, a comic book component. So it's kind of unique and it's been fun to do. So I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if Moira is serious or not, but she's like, when's the story going to start? No, Moira, we're doing an interview about this book, which is Teen Titans Go to the Library, and other books that Franco and Art Baltazar have made over the years, and of course their creator-owned stuff. So no, there's no story time starting with us. We're not, that's not what's going to happen here. This is us talking about, and this is really kind of the insurance policy part of the conversation where there's liability, and all of a sudden I'm Harry Morgan. But let's get to some fun stuff. I was telling you off the air, I just found this great. I love YouTube because you fall in a rabbit hole, and the next thing you know, you've watched 5 videos that you never would have thought of before, and you still get that wow factor of I didn't even know this thing existed. And I was telling you, I found this great Dawes Butler, the voice of Huckleberry Hound and a million Hanna-Barbera characters. I believe he was Dr. Quest on Johnny Quest. If not, maybe it was Don Messick. But it's so great. It's an hour, and they talk to Dawes, and they talk to a lot of his collaborators, like the great voiceover actors June Foray and Don Messick and Stan Freberg. And it was just so amazing. And then I'll tell you about other cartoons I found, but I've documentaries, so pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. I also a 3-part, like over 2 hours long, Johnny Quest documentary about the series.
Really?
And really cool actual production art and other things as well. And yeah, man. And just the amount of facts that this guy like came across, like he really put his heart and soul into this idea. That, and then I also watched a Filmation history documentary about Lou Scheimer, the guy who was behind Filmation. And did you know that Saturday morning cartoons started in '66, and one of the first shows was the New Adventures of Superman, that great '60s Bud Collyer cartoon. Yeah. So I'm 2 years older than Saturday morning cartoons. That kind of scares me.
I love Saturday morning cartoons. I would watch them all the time. I loved Hanna-Barbera. Johnny Quest was one of those shows I never really got into.
Really?
And and it was a strange thing. Like when I saw it, I'm like, what is happening? Are they a family? Are they married? These two guys, and they have these two kids. I didn't understand what was happening. It's just I don't know. It was just a strange type of show that I just couldn't wrap my head around, and their adventures or what's happening. Like give me Huckleberry Hound, give me McGilla Gorilla. Those guys, I got into those cartoons, and it was a lot of fun. I loved the Hanna-Barbera stuff so much. I love the Super Friends and all that other stuff. But yeah, Johnny Quest was something I never really got into. Although I do love what's the updated version, the Venture Brothers.
Oh God, yeah.
I love the Venture Brothers. Yeah, I should go back and watch all the Johnny Quest cartoons. And it was just something I never really got into.
Well, Ken Doug has them on DVD, and he corrects me, and I appreciate this, man. It was Don Messick and John Stevenson who played Dr. Quest. But the whole season, they only made one season. It's all on the Internet Archive, and a pretty good rip of wherever they got the cartoons from. So they're sitting there, and at least until Hanna-Barbera hears that I'm talking about this and they yank it down. But I was a massive fan. I even remember in the late 80s and early 90s when Kamiko, the comic book company, was doing a really good Johnny Quest comic book. And Steve Rude and Doug Wadley, the original guy that came up with the designs, both did covers and interiors and stuff. Fantastic comic book. Great.
You remember those from Kamiko? Yeah. They had that Elementals comic, right?
Yes, they did.
They did, yeah.
Bill Willingham, absolutely. So, and Robotech, a lot of Robotech, I remember.
That's right.
So, yeah. Our buddies, Shelley Bond, Azzarello, Diana Schutz, they all worked at Kamiko for a minute. Actually, maybe not Shelley, but I know Diana, and I know they worked for Kamiko, and Steve Rude, obviously, too. It was a neat little company back in the day. Yeah. I've been, and it's funny talking about old Saturday morning cartoons. Some guys have created literally a 2 to 4 hour block of a given year, and all the cartoons that were there, plus great commercials as well.
Wow!
And, man, Hot Wheels and the Captain Crunch commercials and stuff. I mean, really, the Tootsie Roll. How many licks to get the center of a Tootsie Pop and everything?
Yeah. They're still using that commercial nowadays, and that blows my mind.
I know, that is crazy. You're right. Mr. Owl. Let's find out.
Yeah, there were many Saturday mornings spent getting up early, watching some of these things, and different times and different stations. Here in New York, it was like, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7. You would have to switch between those and find out what was going on. And there was the Zorro Flash Gordon or Lone
Yes.
Ranger Arrow Hour on CBS here in New York, and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was on Channel 4, NBC, and Super Friends was on ABC, and
No, it was great stuff, man. Absolutely. Mentioning Zorro, and it's something I want to talk about when we all get together to talk sci-fi TV with Wayne and Mitch and everybody. I guess later this month on Netflix, a new Zorro TV series.
Oh, really? Oh, wait, I think I've heard about this.
I'm very excited. I don't know if it's because I know for a couple of years there was a telenovela for the Spanish channels and stuff that they made a modern day Zorro, and he rode a motorcycle and stuff. But I hope it's traditional Zorro. And I don't know about you, man, but truly, I'm a sucker. As soon as I see Zorro, it's like I've got to watch it. And I mean, when Duncan Rainier, who was on Deep Space Nine, and ends up being the head of the government of Bajor on Deep Space Nine and stuff, he was a really quality Zorro. I thought in the syndication days of the '90s. I thought he did a good job, and
I liked him more from that show, and I think I'll get the name wrong, but it was Wizards and something else. It was on CBS, I believe. It was it ran for like maybe a season, and I thought it was going to be this Dungeons and Dragons thing, and it was just so lame and so bad. But I remember it vividly, and I got to find episodes of it. Not that I ever will, but um, oh god, I can't remember the name of it.
well, JD tells us that the Zorro series is a traditional Zorro series, and it seems it's a Spain Mexico production. Fantastic.
Nice.
And Wayne tells us that Sean Gordon Murphy is going to be doing a new Zorro book. And yeah, I think Wayne is right.
I backed that book on Kickstarter, and I can't wait for it to come out. Wizards
Oh,
and
right.
Warlocks, maybe. Yes, that's it. Yeah,
I remember
Wayne
that.
remembers these things. Yeah.
And of course, ChemDog, you're absolutely right. I was going to say the Guy Williams, Professor Robinson from Lost in Space, his real claim to fame was doing Zorro for the few years that he did it.
Yeah.
And that is such a well-made 50s Walt Disney show. And I forget the reason why Disney himself pulled the plug on it. And it was some sort of either they raised the licensing rights that it would have cost him even more money or whatever. And he's like, no, that's all right. That's enough. But Annette Funicello was on the show.
I remember it vividly. My dad would watch them all the time, and I have this very specific memory of when we went to the store and department store way back when in the early 70s. And
Sure.
we didn't have a lot of money for things, but someone was talking to me about recently about Migos and stuff like that, and Artios talks about Migos and stuff like that, but I never got into Migos. I think actually it might have been a conversation with you about talking about Migos and how I never got into them because we just didn't have the money. I think you said you were a couple of years older than the Migos craze.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, my friends' younger brothers and sisters would have Migos and stuff. Like I remember seeing the Star Trek Migos and Planet of the Apes, and I loved the properties. But yeah, I'm like, all right, I was getting ready for my dating years, so I'm like, no thanks to the Migos. But go on.
Yeah, Artie and I are about the same age. We're a year apart, so less than that, less so. But he's huge into Migos. He had them as a kid. He played with them all the time. He's into them now. I never once had a Migo figure ever. We never, really bought those things. They bought comic books for me because my dad would go to the newspaper stand and comic books were there. But toys was something we never really had the money for. But I remember we went to the department store once and my dad splurged in because he had a little extra cash, but he bought like a movie camera, to film movies. But also part of the package, I guess it was a good deal, was he got a home movie projector, and one of the things that came with it was a Zorro film.
Oh wow!
Yeah, one of these ones with the guy from Lost in Space. What's his name again?
Guy Williams. Yeah.
Guy Williams. And I would watch that thing over and over again. And it was a talking film, but this thing was silent. So, but I would watch it. So yeah, so I love Zorro, and we would watch it all the time. And Zorro, Tarzan, I can't tell you how many Tarzan movies I watched with my dad. Abbott and Costello and the
Sure.
the Bowery Boys
Oh,
with
absolutely.
with Satch.
Slip and Satch. Yeah,
Slip
Hunts
and
Hall
Satch.
and Leo Gorcey.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great, JD, and I have seen this movie and I love it. In fact, I found it on YouTube recently. Did you ever see the Zorro movie with Alain Delon, the French actor, in the leading role? It's a good movie.
I have not.
And there's a great sword fight at the end of the movie that literally goes on for more than 10 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, this just keeps going, and they're walking and going through the town as they're fighting each other. But it was great because it was kind of a sequel to The Mark of Zorro, where Don Diego becomes the governor of the territory. And he has to kind of balance being Zorro and deal with this corruption within his government, while still pretending to be just Don Diego and the Bruce Wayne fop that Don Diego represented and everything. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was foreign. I believe it was French language, and I saw it dubbed and everything. But for being like an early '70s dub movie, it's like, no, it's just they spent money on this. It was pretty good. And like I said, I'm a sucker for all Zorro. So
yeah, I mean, if it was in early '70s, I'm sure my dad saw it somewhere somehow, or I've probably even seen it. But yeah, we would watch all that stuff, and
sure.
the Three Musketeers and stuff. I was just a sucker for all that stuff. I loved all that stuff.
Mentioning Tarzan, Turner Classic Movies did a full day of Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies. And the one that I'm like, this is a superhero movie, Tarzan in New York, or Tarzan's New York Adventure. Man, you want it. It's great. And he's
climbing
like
the side of the building. Yeah.
Yes, it's like parkour, like decades before they had the phrase. And yeah, man, no, and he's in a suit. There's times too where he's just down to the loincloth. And I remember one scene in particular where he's on like a New York skyscraper balcony or whatever, and totally just in the loincloth. And it's like, hey man, there he is. It's Tarzan. This is fantastic.
Well, being from New York and having walked the city many times, there's nothing strange about a man in a loincloth standing on his balcony in New York City.
Hey!
So.
Stanley wants to know, any big plans for the new year? Traveling much? Do you have shows lined up for this year?
I have a couple of shows. I think the first one I'll be hitting is probably C2E2. But I've kind of scaled back. Last year I went to quite a lot of shows. I was crisscrossing the country, and I went to Europe as well. So I think what happened last year is in January of last year, I kind of made the decision that I was going to retire from teaching. And I think my brain kind of kicked into fight or flight in terms of, oh man, you're not going to have a job in June, so you better start hustling and and going to shows. And I went to a lot. I went to quite a bit, and I think I kind of overdid it. So I don't know that I'll be doing that many shows this year, but I will probably be hitting Chicago, most likely San Diego. I'll be at Terrific Con, most likely New York. And I want to try and hit Heroes Con in Charlotte, but we'll see. I got to see what pans out. But I'm not going to be doing that many shows this year.
Gotcha. I don't know if I'm going to Orlando at the end of the month. I've been promoting the OAX show here on Word Balloon, but we'll see. And regardless, I will be going to Dublin for the con that you went to, obviously, in this past fall. So I'm doing that in March, doing C2E2, and then definitely Terrificon. And we'll see other than those. But those are my immediate travel plans. ChemDog, I'm with you, man. He watched the old Danger Island and Gulliver's Travel and Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn shows, all a part of the Banana Splits wheel back in the day.
Yeah.
Danger Island, Jan Michael Vincent, before he was really well known. That was kind of his first exposure.
Before Airwolf?
Before Airwolf, did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love those Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn combination of live action and them walking around an animated background and interacting with cartoon characters.
Mhm.
Hey, that old pirate, he looks like Injun Joe. Stuff
He
like
look,
that.
he's very animated. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if JD, I don't know if this is going on. There's a brand new Three Musketeers French movie on Netflix in his country. He recommends it. Do we have it in the U.S.? I honestly don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I don't know. I think I saw one recently um, advertised, like a trailer or something for it. It looked really cool, and it was a Musketeer movie. I think the only and everybody was French or Spanish or different. I only recognized the one actress, U.S. actress, based actress in the movie. Um, I'll have to look that up because I love that stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'm still. It's funny, and it's something we've talked about on when we do the sci-fi shows and stuff. I don't know why, but I'm finding it harder and harder to get excited about fantasy. But I do still love swashbuckling. But now I love Musketeer stuff, and everyone's like, "Who cares, John?" But but I but I have to admit, I'm not as big on like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Beyond the first movie, have never watched any of the others, didn't care. And I liked Black Sails on Stars. I thought that was an interesting movie. And I love, even though it deals with Buccaneers and everything, Master and Commander, the Russell Crowe movie. And that I've heard people say is like the Benson sisters are like, if you really watch it, it's pretty much Star Trek, but it's sails.
Yeah.
And Hunt for Red October, my buddy Rob Burnett always goes, "Yeah, that's Star Trek with submarines," and it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Probably why I liked all of that. I did see the first season of Our Flag Means Death, which is the Taika Waititi pirate thing on
yeah,
Max.
yeah,
And I know the second season came up, but I haven't watched it yet. But I got to watch that as well. But I don't know if I liked it at first, but as the season went on, I liked it more and more. So I want to check out season 2.
JD says, I guess in this Musketeers movie, Eva Green is Lady De Winter. Very cool.
That's the actress that I recognized. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm intrigued, and I will certainly look for it on Netflix and see. I still got to watch that Poe TV show, Fall of the House of Usher.
I as well. There's a list. I literally have a list of stuff that I wrote down that I have to watch, and I wrote down like about 50 things, and only 3 are crossed off. So
I have the same problem, and I know you're a big Blue Eyed Ninja fan.
the Blue Eye Samurai was amazing. Was amazing. I kept hearing people talk about it and turned it on, and I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop watching. It was just, if you haven't seen it, you should really watch it. And Reacher, I liked Reacher. But I got to watch the new episodes as well.
Yeah, I got to catch up on Reacher. I have to catch up on Apple Slow Horses, the spy show there with Gary Oldman. That's great. And there's a new For All Mankind that dropped today. I think there's only going to be one more episode for season 4. I know you're behind.
Yeah,
but,
I'm on season 2 right now.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Insanely good. Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, man, the streamers continue to deliver. And did you watch the other day? We're Jamie Farr fans. Did you watch the MASH retrospective on New Year's Day?
I meant to tell you that I didn't watch it New Year's Day, but I watched it a day or so after. Because on Hulu you're able to pull it up, the Fox shows, and I saw it and watched it, and now that's got me on a run. Because usually when I'm drawing or writing, like I'll put on something that I've seen a million times before because it's easier, and I just started watching MASH from the beginning again.
Oh, that's hilarious. Fantastic. Yeah. Now, I did the opposite, and you can find all the episodes of After MASH on YouTube. And I'm like, I got to watch to see. Well, honestly, it wasn't as bad as you'd think. I think it was more, all right, we've had 11 years with these people. And also, it was Klinger, Colonel Potter, and Father Mulcahy.
Right.
They're the main stars, and you finally see Mildred, Colonel Potter's wife. But I mean, it was fine for what it was. I've only watched the pilot, but I was actually impressed. And there was even an episode where, because they work at a VA hospital, and there's a sad post-Korea War veteran that obviously the experience really disturbed him, and he thinks Colonel Potter is, because Colonel Potter's like, oh, I was in Korea too, just making conversation with him, and he's like, I'm not going back there, and he's like, no, son, I'm not here to do that. Well, he wasn't convinced, and he goes to Colonel Potter's house, and he has Mildred at gunpoint. And it's like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. And it's like, oh my God, man. I'm like, Jesus. I remembered the much lighter fare. And it was the same writers. It was Larry Gelbart, Burt Metcalf, and the Gene Reynolds, the people behind MASH.
Well, that's probably why. I mean, you watch episodes of MASH, and they vacillated between pure slapstick humor to some of those, oh my God, what did I just watch type episodes.
Yeah. They also made an all-black series that was set in the 40s. And I think once MASH took off, Fox was like, hey, what else have you got? And it was set during World War II, and it was about an all-black unit. But essentially it was and it was definitely lighter in the way that the early episodes of MASH was pure comedy. And it really wasn't until that buddy of Hawkeye's, who was the journalist, gets killed on the show and everything. And,
but even some of the earlier episodes had kind of like a twinge of hey, this is still war type thing. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Nope.
Good stuff. So yeah, everybody, honestly, what I've learned in the last couple of years is, if you remember something, go to YouTube, and you've got a very good chance of finding it, or the Internet Archive as well. But man, literally, I'm like, I wonder if after MASH, right there, every episode, I'm like, okay, I got Radar. Good stuff, man.
I'm gonna have to watch the after MASHes after I watch my MASH run. I have 11 years of episodes to go through, though. Artie always talks about Breaking Bad. He's watched it like 15, 20 times.
Yes.
I think MASH for me is like, because I was just telling my family that I started watching it again, but here in New York, it used to be on the Channel 5 Fox, what is now Fox, but then was just WNYW back then. They would show it right before prime time, so they would show 2 episodes at 7 o'clock, and I would watch them all the time.
No, absolutely. It's funny. Dabney Coleman had that 80s sitcom Buffalo Bill, and one of the storylines in Buffalo Bill was they were canceling his show and they were going to put on MASH reruns because they were going to draw better than his local talk show and stuff. But yeah, I loved that. That killed me. So,
wasn't he that Slap Maxwell? Wasn't that him too?
That was after Buffalo Bill, and I love that show too. Dabney Coleman was fantastic, man. You had to be in the mood to watch somebody that was a jerk, but nobody plays a jerk better than Dabney.
Wasn't he? Yeah, wasn't he the jerk boss in 9 to 5?
Of course he was, absolutely. Right. And man, if you really dig and if you love Columbo, you'll see him without his mustache, and he'll be one of the cops that's talking to Columbo all the time on a handful of episodes. And of course, on Golden Pond, he wants to marry Jane Fonda and has to get Henry Fonda's approval. And of course, Henry Fonda's being a complete jerk. And it's like, all right, I see what you are, but I'm not intimidated by you. And he totally dresses down Henry Fonda, and he's like, all right, you can marry my daughter. You're cool. Oh, God, good job. I was gonna say, Cloak and Dagger.
Oh, right, yeah.
Henry Thomas from E.T. and Dabney plays his father, and he plays his action hero. I forget his name, Jack something. But oh man, great movie, fantastic kid movie, one of the best.
I was gonna say, I was watching the first couple episodes of MASH, and seeing who comes up, because that thing started in the 70s. I think it ended in 83 and ran for like 11 years, right?
You got it.
So it ended in 83. So, basically
started in 72. Yeah.
72, right? The first episode, Radar, catches the football and Then he hears the choppers, right? But the guy standing next to him is Bruno Kirby, um, who passed away young, but he's been in a slew of movies
Oh
and
yeah.
you know one of my favorite of his characters was in The Freshman. He steals Matthew
Oh
Broderick's
yeah. He's hilarious.
suitcase
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. But yeah,
No,
so
Ron Howard did MASH early on.
yeah, I was going to say the other one was Cotter's wife, Mrs.
Oh yeah,
Cotter.
Marcia Strassman. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely, man. I didn't know Andrew Dice Clay apparently was in a later season of MASH. I didn't know that.
I think so. Yeah,
Um,
you're surprised at who shows up. John Ritter, I remember seeing, and
I
a
was
whole
gonna
bunch of
say,
people. Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
And of course, Alan Alda's dad, Robert Alda, fine actor as well.
Right, and again, one of the first 2-3 episodes, they had one of the generals on there, and it was bugging me. I'm like, why do I know who this is? And it was Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard, Buddy Sorrell, not Buddy Sorrell,
Sorrell something. His first name
Sorrell
was.
Brooks or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Very funny.
Yep.
Absolutely. No. And yeah, man. No, great character actors show up on MASH. The guy who played Colonel Flagg.
Yeah, I loved when Colonel Flagg would show up. He was so crazy.
Oh yeah.
The only thing
And,
the thing that when you and I start talking, the only thing that it brings up to mind is that I've watched way too much television as a kid. I was
Sorrell Brooks.
yeah.
That's yes, that's who was one of the generals. Also, Larry Hama, GI Joe's Larry Hama. He
That's
played
right.
he played a North Korean.
Yep.
A fantastic episode where they're contemplating, and I believe Robert Ito from Quincy is the other Korean, and they're contemplating kidnapping Frank Burns.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, he's annoying them so much they just pull over. They're like,
Get out.
Get out. Absolutely, man. That's great. Wayne, of course, remembers Alan Arbush as
Sidney
Sidney
Freeman,
Freeman. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, you're killing me, man. Exactly. We have watched too much TV, Francis.
Yeah. See, we just derailed this whole conversation into everybody's tweeting out. I
we
wanted to
did.
hear about the comic books, but no, not anymore.
No, we didn't. Hey, what are you talking about? Moira wanted us to read a story. Yeah, that's a shame. It ain't going to happen, Moira. I apologize.
Sorry.
Everybody, check out, first of all, certainly some of the other great books that Art and Franco have done, like Dead Men Tell the Spooky Tales and Archimaniacs and Superman of Smallville, just to name a few. But also, and I'll bring it back.
The second book we just did, that was a lot of fun last year.
Oh, sure. Shame on me, man. Absolutely. Yes. But this week, it's all about Teen Titans Go to the library, and it's outstanding. Agnes Grabowski, Art Baltazar, and Franco bringing it, and a really, really funny, terrific idea. Great book to curl up with the kids and get them excited about the library and stuff. And a lot of fun. Well done, dude.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for watching tonight. Guess what's happening next week, Francis? I can't believe, after many, many years of pursuit, I'm finally speaking to Mike Allred on Monday.
Oh, awesome! Congratulations!
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan, have been for decades, and this is going to be great. So that's the next Word Balloon Live, everybody, on Monday. It'll be Mike Allred. Check social media for times and specifics. But looking forward to it, and I hope you'll join us then. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.